It's Donna.
Hey, Donna.
How are you?
We're well. I'm well. I was telling everybody my COVID saga. My husband and I did get breakthrough cases over the holidays. So,
Yeah, my daughter did too.
yeah, and we did share it with the rest of one of my children and his family. We weren't with the others, thank goodness. But yeah, we are the big bad witches that.
I was just checking to see if Carmen got my PowerPoint. Is she here today?
Yes, she is.
Okay,
thank you. Yeah,
it's ready to go, Donna.
You got it?
I got it.
We'll share that try information because we are in the coalition with Dr. Boone, so we definitely want to share her information today. Okay, well, I officially say hello and the meeting is open. We welcome you to our first meeting of 2022. Glad to see all of you and hope you had a good holiday. We'll go around, we'll just boom, 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 boom. I'm going to say your name and just say your name again, introduce yourself and what neighborhood you're from. And we'll do our minutes then that were in the agenda with that email. So hopefully there are the minutes in the chat. Carmen, maybe, can we do that?
I can share them. I'll share.
All right, we'll put the minutes again from our December meeting in the chat while we're doing our introductions if you want to have a quick.
And the agenda is also in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and
agenda's in the chat. Yeah, and questions always, we'll be trying to check the chat and get to your questions as we have our speakers speak. All right, so I'm Mindy Soley and I'm from the Forest Hills neighborhood. Carmen?
Hello, I'm Carmen Ortiz and I am the strategist for District 3. And I will popcorn it to Officer Mock.
Well, good morning. My name is Officer Mock and I'm the Community Resource Officer for District 3 and I also inherited District 1. And I'll pass it to Captain Murray.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain Murray. I'm the commander of District 3. It's good to see everybody this morning.
How about Linwood?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Linwood Best. I'm with the Durham Neighborhood Improvement Services. And I'll pass it on to Donna. Donna?
And this is Donna Rosser, Durham County Department of Public Health, Health Promotion and Wellness, Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention. And I don't know who to pass it to. So.
All right, I'll do Rita.
Hi, I'm Rita Vanix and I'm Neighborhood Watch Coordinator in 5 Oaks and also the PAC 3 Secretary.
Thank you. How about Lieutenant Mark?
Yeah, Lieutenant Fitzgerald, Assistant Commander, District 3. Glad to be here today. Listen to what everyone has to say.
Thank you. Nada? Oh, you're on mute, Nada. We can't hear you. That's okay. We all do that.
I'm Nada Staden, and I'm a block captain in the Dunbarton area.
Super. Thank you for being here. Dosali?
Greetings, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Dosali Reed Bandele, and I live in the Tuscaloosa Lakewood neighborhood, but I'm also the executive director for the West End Community Foundation, which is located in Lyon Park.
Oh, I am so delighted to meet you. I was supposed to get in touch with you before the holidays and I didn't. No My apologies. But we, yes, we want to be partners with you, absolutely. And Tuscaloosa Lakewood is just my neighbor here to the north. So I'm very close to the Lyon Park Community Center and we hope to be back in there soon. And I think you can make that connection for us. So Dosali, thank you for reaching out again and not giving up on me. We'll connect. We'll connect for sure. All right. And Han?
Yeah, my name is Han. As mentioned earlier, I'm a Duke graduate student and here representing the graduate professional student government at Duke. So this is my second meeting, and so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Patty.
I'm Patty Reeser. I'm live in the Long Meadow neighborhood, in between Lyon Park and Tuscaloosa Lakewood.
Right.
I coordinate the Long Meadow Helps, which is our mutual aid organization.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us. We're glad to have you. Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Holdridge. I live in Meadowmont, which is probably about the farthest south in PAC 3, down the bottom corner next to Orange County and Chatham, but still in the city.
Great to have you with us. Thank you. Yeah, I think District 3 is the biggest district in the city. Am I wrong on that? Am I right? Carmen's nodding. I think District 3.
Linwood might know.
Yeah, right. We cover the biggest area.
Landmass, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, in landmass. So thank you for joining in with us. We do appreciate your feedback and your comments and concerns. Brenda.
Brenda Kinney, and I've lived in Hope Valley for 50 years, and I'm a friend of Mindy's.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Brenda, for being here. Donna, we've done. Oh, Captain Lane, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks, Mindy. Yeah, I'm Captain Lane, over Sports Services, Durham County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you for being with us. We've had the sheriff speak at our, was that October meeting? I'm getting confused, but we're really appreciating having someone from the Sheriff's Office here with us. Officer Pruka from Duke, glad to have you.
Yes, good morning. This is my first meeting. Again, name's Aaron Pruka. I'm with Duke University Police Department, one of the community service officers.
Great to have you here. Thank you. And Aaron and I serve on the Durham Businesses Against Crime Executive Committee. So I do appreciate you being here representing both Duke and the Business Association. Thank you. Don, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Mindy. Thanks for doing this.
I turned off the video. I just put my name.
Oh, okay, Daniel. We'll come to you next. Oh, this is Don Stanger. Sorry, Don Stanger. And then Daniel, we'll get to you.
Okay. I'm a neighbor of Brenda's, and I'm representing the Hope Valley Neighborhood Association.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Larhanda, Miss Leslie. I'll give you a second. Yeah, you're all being so good to put yourself on mute. Miss Leslie, do you?
I'm sorry. I was busy with the family. I walked away.
That's okay.
Hi, everyone. I am just a neighbor from Trinity Properties. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, well, we are so glad you're here, and we're so sorry about the problems you've had over in your apartment complexes. And we know the district officers have worked really hard, and I'm sure Captain Murray will address that in his report. But thank you for being here. And again, we are sympathetic to what you're going through. And Daniel, sorry, you're last here, last but not least.
No, sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. I'm just observing. I'm a friend of Mindy's and a concerned citizen, so.
All right, thank you for being with us today. Well, thank you all for being here. It's great to see you all, and we look forward to hearing from our guest speakers shortly. But before we do that, if we could have a motion to approve December's minutes, and then we'll let Ms. Santana begin. Here are our minutes. Rita, we thank Rita, as always, for her incredible job with these. She's not only accurate, but she's quick. She'll get these out the same weekend. She's a busy lady, and she really helps us out by getting these minutes together. Are there any corrections or additions? Can I call for a motion? Would someone move that we accept these as written?
So these will also be in the chat so that if anyone wants to take some more time and go over them, so I'll put them in the chat so that everyone will have access to it after the meeting.
All right.
I motion to approve.
Perfect.
Thank you, Rita. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Cashin, thank you so much. We appreciate that. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, or raise your hand, I guess. All opposed? Raise your hand. Okay, no opposition. Thank you so much. The minutes have been approved as written. All right, thank you. And now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for the morning, Miss Satana DeBerry. And she's going to help us learn about her office, what she does, what her responsibilities are, and her response. I think I did share with her a full page of questions and concerns from our district, and she'll try to address as many of those as she can. But I'll just let you, Ms. DeBerry, tell us more about yourself. I believe you went to Princeton and Duke Law School, so we are proud and honored to have you with us today and in this office. So we'd like to hear more about your thoughts. Okay, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you. And we can all put ourselves on mute now so that she has a clearer connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy, and thanks for the invitation to speak to you all today. Mindy provided me with a list of questions that I hope I will get to all of them in the presentation, but certainly if I don't, feel free to ask them. One of my core values is to be open and transparent. So anything that I can answer, we will answer. And it's good to see many of you. I know many of you, and me and Don Stengler go back a long way. So how you doing, Don? I hadn't seen you in a long time. All right, I am going to share my screen and we'll go ahead and get started. Carmen, am I good? Can you see my screen? Perfect.
Looks great.
Right. Perfect. So we're going to start this slideshow from the beginning, and hopefully, after 2 years of Zoom, this will work, but we'll have to see. Hold on, I cannot see I'm gonna have to reduce this some because I cannot see it. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen actually for a little bit because I can't get the slideshow working because I can't see the.
And if I could interrupt briefly, did I let Dr. Now, see, he's not on my screen. I didn't introduce Dr. Stile, right? Or did I?
You did.
I did.
You did. Thank you. Yeah, Courtyard's at South Point.
That's right. Okay. All right. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
No, that's perfect. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the role of the DA. One of the things that I've learned in the 3 years of doing this job is that many people don't know what their district attorney does. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, about the court process, policies and priorities of our office, and then a little bit of an office overview. So the Durham DA's office, we are the 16th prosecutorial district. Is Durham County. There are 42 prosecutorial districts in Durham in North Carolina. Some of them are multi-county. The bigger counties are single counties. I am the elected district attorney. I was elected in 2018. There are 40 employees in the office. We have, the office has been reorganized since I've been the DA into teams. This means that each of those teams now has a team lead who is an experienced prosecutor, and each of these teams has a skill set that they have developed over these last few years so that they are better at prosecuting these types of cases. We have a homicide and violent crime team, which is where homicides, shootings, armed robberies, those type of things are prosecuted. A drug and property crime team, district court team, traffic, a special victims unit, which our special victims unit does not only traditional special victims cases like sexual assault of adults and children, they also handle human trafficking, they handle homicide cases if the victim was a special victim, meaning if it was a child or if the homicide was a result of domestic violence or intimate partner violence. They also handle intimate partner crimes, as well as homicides where the victim was targeted because of their race, gender, sexual orientation, or gender presentation. And then a juvenile team, which handles traditional juvenile cases, which are cases for people who have been people have been accused of crimes who are under 18, but also homicides in which the defendant is someone who is under 25. The primary role of the prosecutor is to seek justice. Our role is not just to convict, it is to be fair and transparent, to protect the innocent and convict the guilty, and consider the interests of not just victims and witnesses, but what the Constitution requires and what our community has asked from us. We represent the state in all criminal cases in Durham County. It is the district attorney's office which decides which charges can and should be pursued in court. We make recommendations about bond and other pretrial release conditions to judges, although it is the judges themselves who make bond decisions. We negotiate plea arrangements and try criminal cases. We work with victims of crime. We set the Superior Court calendar. And now we have been setting the district court calendar through COVID. We consult with law enforcement on charging, especially in the most serious and violent cases. We refer and approve cases to diversion programs. We also, and this is something that has come up just this week, review cases that involve any use of force by law enforcement, and decide whether charges should be filed in those cases. We also review any cases of misconduct by law enforcement officers and decide whether or not criminal charges should be filed in those cases. So here's a little more specific about the cases in Durham County. We have about 30,000 cases filed in Durham courts in 2019. All cases start in district court, which is why it says district court here. I will talk a little bit more about the process later. Approximately 50% of those 30,000 charges are traffic related. 20% are felonies, 30% are misdemeanors. Only about 10% of the 30,000 cases which are charged or filed in court every year are violent cases. So the way we just determine serious and violent cases is if those cases have a human victim and there has been violence alleged to be perpetrated against that human victim. Our most common charge by far is speeding. There are 7,000 speeding cases charged in Durham County a year. We have, 2 major interstate highways that run through Durham County. We also have 147. If any of y'all have been on any of those highways, they are racetracks, as well as several one-way streets that run through town, which also create the opportunity for speeding. In fact, we have more violent deaths by motor vehicle accident than we have by any other reason in Durham County. And our most common violent felony that is charged in Durham County is robbery with a dangerous weapon. There are about 100 of those cases a year. That is what typically people refer to as armed robbery. So to talk a little bit about the court process, our office usually does not get involved until and unless charges are filed. Now, there are some exceptions to that. In the 3 years that I've been district attorney, we have been working with our counterparts in law enforcement, especially closely with DPD and the sheriff's office, around consultation on initial charging in serious and violent cases. especially homicides and sexual assaults. And the reason that we do this is because I noticed when I took over that there were lots of cases that had been charged that could not be proved in court. And so what we have been working on is working with investigators before charges are filed so that we have the best evidence possible, so that we start off in a generally better footing when we start to prosecute cases. And part of that is also too, because victims, once somebody is charged, victims get really attached to that person's name, and they don't want to hear that there's a constitutional process that has to occur. Once they hear that somebody's been charged, they assume that person has done it. And if there's not enough evidence to convict that person, then we end up in a situation where nobody feels like they've been heard or that justice has been done. And so we don't want to end up in those type of situations. The way that charging works in North Carolina is that mostly law enforcement takes out charges. The district attorney's office does not take out charges. We can and do in some cases, but most charges in North Carolina are filed by law enforcement. Sometimes residents come and take out their own charges with the magistrate, but those are generally low-level cases. All our cases generally begin in district court. We have a screener in our office who reviews and assigns cases to teams based on the type of crime. And then that team lead assigns those cases to ADAs, and that is based on that ADA specific caseload and case specialty. The DA's office decides which cases move forward in court. The district attorney is a constitutional officer in North Carolina. That means that the district attorney has 100% discretion in deciding which cases should move forward in court and which cases and what decisions are made in those cases. And so some of the things that we consider when moving a case forward is the nature of the offense, the strength of the evidence against the person accused, the victim's wishes, their safety needs, and their cooperation. Victim cooperation is particularly key when there are alleged crimes against a human being. We consider the defendant's prior record level and the potential collateral consequences of a conviction for that particular person. We consider whether or not there are other means to hold that person accountable. And we prioritize cases involving violence. So what that means practically is that the ADAs in my office are prioritizing the most serious and violent cases. We are less interested in the prosecution of low-level things in which there is not a human victim or there is not damage to property. And so you may have heard that we don't prosecute things like simple possession of marijuana. And what happens with those cases generally is that we divert them from court. We find a different way for that person to be held accountable. We don't have a ton of court resources. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And so we want to keep the resources that we have for the cases that are the most violent and the most complicated. Law enforcement arrest people under a legal theory called probable cause. Probable cause means that if that person more likely than not did it. But the standard that we use in our office for the conviction of cases is reasonable doubt, which is a much higher standard than probable cause. So we have to consider whether or not there's enough evidence and whether or not that evidence is enough to convict. And then to think about what it means for us as prosecutors and our ethical responsibility to proceed without probable cause. So if we have cases that don't even meet the probable cause standard, we will dismiss those cases. And the system is adversarial. So often we hear people say, well, you should do this, you should do that. Every defendant who is entitled to counsel is represented by counsel. And generally, defense counsel is aggressive, and not all evidence will end up being usable. So there are lots of things that go into whether or not a case makes it all the way through to conviction. A little bit about pretrial release, which is when somebody has been charged, whether or not there's a bond set. The most important thing to remember is that the North Carolina Constitution requires that most people who are charged with a crime are entitled to have some pretrial conditions, release conditions set. That means if the only people who are not entitled to a bond under North Carolina law are people who have been accused of first-degree murder and are facing the death penalty. There are none of those cases in Durham County. So everyone who has been arrested in Durham County will be entitled to some type of pretrial release. We talked previously, the prosecutors don't set bond, judges do. However, prosecutors in my office do make recommendations, and we recommend that people be held only in cases in which there's violence involved. So in cases in which there are in low-level cases or cases in which there just may be property damage, but no harm to a human victim, we will not recommend a secured bond. We will recommend some type of unsecured. That means that person may write their own promise to appear in court or something very low level. We also use electronic monitoring in Durham County. So, and I think at this point, about 90% of people show up to court, irrespective of what they are charged with. The vast majority of our cases end in plea bargain. That is not just true in Durham County, that is true nationwide. I think nationwide, about 97% of cases end in a plea offer. And that is because, as we said, there are limited court resources. Many cases, there's not an issue of fact, meaning whether this is the right person, or law, whether that person committed the crime that was said that they committed. And so when we have those, generally a defendant is offered a plea agreement. Our sentences in North Carolina are guided by the structured sentencing chart, which is what you see to your left. Often you might hear, or you might see in the newspaper or hear on the television news that a person faced a maximum of a certain amount. Maybe a person faced 20 years in prison, yet their plea bargain only was for 8 months. When you hear that maximum, the judge is required by statute to say what the maximum is, but that maximum would be for someone who has been, who has the worst record. And so let me explain this chart a little bit. You will see across the top of the chart is a number from 1 to 6. Those are record levels. So that means if a person has been convicted of something before, they are assigned a certain number of points. And then on your left-hand side, you will see the offense class. Every felony in North Carolina is categorized from a Class A felony through a Class F felony. Generally, those crimes above that, where you see the chart break, those felonies above that are violent or involve harm to human victims. The ones below the break are generally property crimes or low-level drug crimes. When a case has been dismissed, certainly in a serious case, it's usually due to insufficient evidence, federal prosecution, or a plea to other charges. And so, again, you may hear that someone is someone who has been charged with something serious may have had their case dismissed. That does not mean that that case is not being prosecuted. It could mean several different things in each individual case. Mindy was asking me as we were waiting for this to get started about the impact of COVID in our office. Our courts here in Durham County never closed. The North Carolina Constitution requires that the courts of North Carolina be open to the public, and we have had some proceedings that have taken place in reduced capacity, but where our biggest impact was in the district courts, because that is where most of our cases are. We will have several hundred cases on a day when it's not COVID, especially in traffic court. So we reduced our caseloads, that we reduced the capacity of people who were in the courtrooms during this time. And we have worked to mitigate any case backlogs that may have happened as a result of COVID. And we just learned last month from AOC that, which is the Administrative Office of Courts, which is who we all work for. We are a state agency. That our district court and criminal infraction caseload has decreased since 2019. We do not have any backlog in district criminal court or district traffic court. That is the first time that has happened in Durham County. So we actually increased our efficiency during COVID in district court. And our felony caseload, while it has increased, we do have a felony backlog. Those cases tend to take much longer than a misdemeanor case will take in district court. But our felony caseload is in line with the state. In fact, our senior resident Superior Court judge has found it surprising that we've been able to work nearly at full capacity during COVID. We've never missed a session of Superior Court, and we have had grand juries. We've never missed a session of grand juries during COVID. And during this time, again, as we always do, we have prioritized cases that involve violence and human victims. So where we have limited docket space, especially in district court, we will prioritize those cases in which there's some alleged harm to a human victim. The policies and priorities since I have been district attorney have been to prioritize serious offenses and the needs of those impacted by violence, reduce the unnecessary court involvement and incarceration of people who are not accused of violence and when safety is not at risk, increase the transparency and trust in the court system. I am the 8th district attorney. When I was elected, I was the 8th district attorney since 2000. So Durham County has had an issue over the last 30 years to 20, 25 years with the district attorney's office. We've had 2 DAs who have been removed from office and subsequently disbarred. And so it was really important for me when I took this office to make sure that people understood what we were doing, why we do it, and that there are no ethical issues in our office. And finally, one of my priorities is to address the inequity and bias in the criminal legal system. District attorney's offices can be black boxes. People don't know what's happening. They generally don't, district attorneys generally don't talk about what they prosecute, how they prosecute, who they prosecute. So we have entered into some research collaborations with several organizations, the Wilson Center at Duke Law School. We have done research with the Sanford School of Public Policy at Duke. We have done research with the UNC School of Government, with UNC Law School. And And so we have been developing many tools to talk about our work and what we do. So I mentioned earlier that we have teams within our office. So I have shifted our resources to focus on serious crimes. Previously, cases were just assigned to a prosecutor who may or may not have experience prosecuting that case. We have really streamlined how cases are assigned, as well as brought in kind of some more experienced attorneys. I have 2 former assistant U.S. attorneys. We have 2/3 of our prosecutors work on violent crime. They are dedicated to that. We have had more homicide convictions in both 2019 and 2021 than in 2018 before I took office. And that is the last year in which we have really data for that. We have our homicide convictions tend to result in longer sentences, more plea bargains and longer sentences, mostly because we have better cases that we are bringing to court. And thanks to the investigators at DPD and the Sheriff's Office for that. We have a sexual assault kit initiative and a designated prosecutor embedded with the DPD cold case unit to prosecute those cases. Durham County, I think, has prosecuted, we were neck and neck with Forsyth County, and maybe somebody from DPD can tell me where we are now, but I think we have prosecuted, and we have tested more sexual assault kits than any district in North Carolina, and there have been resulting convictions from that. And we now consult pre-charge in almost every homicide and other serious case. That ensures that we have strong evidence and that people are charged appropriately. Often you would see a number of charges against somebody. Some of those charges could not be proved. Now we have stronger charges that can be proved. We have reduced the dismissals for insufficient evidence in Durham County. There used to be a lot more of those in murder cases. And in the most serious cases, our office becomes involved as soon as a suspect is identified, whether that person has been charged or not. That way we can work with investigators around the collection of evidence and just building a stronger case file. We've improved coordination with police. I've talked about that. All of our teams meet regularly with their law enforcement counterparts to build cases and build trust. Our ADAs meet regularly with the gang unit, and we receive gang validation information more early so that we are able to make sure that the appropriate charges move forward. We cross-train with law enforcement to ensure that our cases are handled effectively from start to finish. The North Carolina Association of District Attorneys does a training called M for Murder, which generally all of our homicide prosecutors go to, but now investigators from DPD have started going to that training with us. So we are learning together and sometimes working our cases during that training with the most up-to-date tactics and training. We seek the court order forfeiture of guns used in crimes or presence in homes in which there has been intimate partner violence. Unfortunately, in North Carolina, we cannot destroy those guns. The General Assembly has said that we have to store those, and I would encourage folks to ask the City Council how much money they have to spend every year on storing guns. It is a lot, and it is really unnecessary. We should be able to destroy them, but we cannot. But one of the things that happens when we keep guns is that we're able to use it for firearm comparison. So we can tell if a gun has now being used in previous incidences, and that has really helped us solve cases. We want to focus on unnecessary court involvement. The vast majority of the cases that we see are nonviolent. Court involvement for those people can increase their likelihood of committing new offenses. There is now lots of research and evidence nationwide that the prosecution of people on low-level offenses makes communities more unsafe than safe. So we strive for resolutions that will break the cycle of crime. You emphasize treatment in cases in which there is substance abuse or mental illness. We have a post-arrest diversion program that we launched in 2020 with the Criminal Justice Resource Center, which is a Durham County agency that works with low-level felonies. It provides both accountability and tools for those people to help them not reoffend. We do not prosecute offenses that happen in school, with the exception of very rare violent crimes. What that means, that is, in the last 3 years, we have had only one referral from Durham County Public Schools. Lots of thanks to the Sheriff's Office. Captain Lane used to supervise that unit, and they have done a great job in really working to understand what are things that need to be referred to the court system, and what are things where the kids just need help. And we've allowed people to earn deferral or dismissal in lower level cases by avoiding new offenses. We've improved our victim services. We often have victims who would come and might have to get on the stand and they wouldn't have appropriate clothing. So our office has created a clothing closet for them. We got a grant from the Governor's Crime Commission to do that. Used to be that if victims or witnesses came to the court, they had to pay for their own parking. That could be as much as $10 a day. Our victims tend to be low-income people. And so for the first time this year, we've worked with Durham County to get a grant to pay the parking for our victims and witnesses. We've used that 201 times in just the first 3 months that we've had it. I think it went into effect in October. We now have a dedicated guest room. If you've been to the courthouse, you know there is literally no space for victims or witnesses. They have to come in the same door as the people who are accused of committing crimes against them. They have to sit in the same place with those people. And so now we have a guest room that is especially helpful during trials because it provides a private place for victims or witnesses to rest or to eat their lunch. We now do a quarterly family meeting with the families of homicide victims. We are doing that in partnership with the Religious Coalition for a Nonviolent Durham. The Religious Coalition for a Nonviolent Durham reaches out to every family of every homicide victim in Durham County, irrespective of whether that case has been solved. And so we want those families to know how the process works, provide them ample opportunity to talk to me. I talk to every family of every homicide victim in Durham County. And for our office, we are using a trauma-informed approach where we listen to survivors and meet with them where they are, especially in sexual assault cases. Somebody may not be ready to prosecute. So we may not move forward until that person is ready because we want the best case possible. We understand how trauma affects both the memory and behavior of our victims, and we want to reduce their re-traumatization during the court process. I talked a little bit about our research. We have a plea tracker initiative that is going on with the Wilson Center at Duke Law School. It's a first of its kind study on prosecutorial discretion and plea agreements, never before done in this country. It helps me manage the ADAs in my office and what the plea bargains are and what they look like. It helps us understand the racial disparities, our inconsistencies, our typical sentences. And the researchers who have been working on this just received almost $1 million grant to expand this throughout the country. So it is proven to work, it is working. Durham County has done more Second Chance Act expunctions. We have initiated the expunctions for 16 and 17-year-olds who were prosecuted as adults before North Carolina raised the age. We've expunged 3,100 charges for 660 people. We have about 8,000 more of those petitions to do for misdemeanor cases. We use restorative justice, which is a victim-led process. We refer all kinds of cases to our community partners for restorative justice. There may be some of you on this call who are part of that. Restorative justice may result in dismissal or reduced charges, but what it really does require is active accountability to repair harm. We have begun using it in homicides. That it does not mean that a case is dismissed in a homicide. The ones that we have used it in have been cases in which the defendant has been convicted of killing a family member. One case that I can talk about is a young man who was convicted of murdering his grandfather. His grandfather had been abusive to him. His family understood that and wanted to be able to work on welcoming him back into the family once he had served his time. And just this last month, with our partners at the Criminal Justice Resource Center, we received a grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance for a mental health court and diversion coordinator. So we will now have a person inside our office who will track every case that is diverted to mental health court or otherwise. And they will manage those cases, work with victims, work with the defendants counsel on those cases. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Medium.com is our blog page. That is where, that is essentially our website where we push out information. An especially helpful thing on the Medium site is the explainer, which goes into depth about how our work, the work we do and how we do our work, and then our website here. And so I will stop sharing, and I know I've taken a lot of time. Hopefully it answered a lot of questions, but I will take any questions from the floor that you have.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that incredible presentation. And we would ask if we could have that to share with our membership. Ms. DeBerry, it was terrific.
Absolutely. I'll send it to Carmen. And,
great.
She can,
we'll make that available. So all the charts, I mean, you covered every question I think that I sent you. And just for everyone to know, it is complicated, and most citizens, we don't understand how the system works. So there's so much to your presentation, Ms. DeBerry, that we can continue to talk about. We are needing to move through our agenda. So there are two possibilities here. We can extend our meeting for 10 minutes. If you can stay, if that's agreeable to people. Do you want to all go to your little reactions at the bottom of your screen? There's hands to say thumbs up. Yes, you can stay. If you don't put a thumbs up. How do I, does that make sense, Carmen? So if we can take 10 extra minutes today, say yes with your little thumbs up. That's what it looks like. All right, we're getting a few, can stay for 10 extra minutes. So we certainly need a majority. Let's see, do we have a majority? 1, 2.
I can stay, Mindy.
3, okay, 4, 5. Yeah, sorry, Donna, I should not do it this way for you.
That's okay.
I apologize. Donna is visually disabled, so we need to always remember we have to say what we're seeing. Okay, so I think we were really split. So I don't want to, how about if we hold questions for Ms. DeBerry? Can you stay, Ms. DeBerry, extra 10 minutes? Okay, so what we'll do is run through the rest of the agenda, and then anyone who can stay and would like to have an opportunity to directly speak to Mr. Berry, that's what we'll do. If you can't stay and have questions, put them in the chat, send them to Carmen or me, and we will try to share them then with Mr. Berry and get you an answer to your questions. Again, many, many thanks, Mr. Berry. You covered so many different educational levels that most citizens just have no clue all that goes on and what all you're doing. So many thanks. So let's quickly run through, Captain, if you could give us your update. The captain does share his weekly crime stats. So if you want to highlight the past month, that would be great. Thank you, Captain.
Sure, thank you. I guess starting the new year, I'm going to start presenting a little bit differently every month. So we just get the month as a whole, or actually the last 28 days as a whole. Looking at the month, we had a pretty good month statistically. Looking at robbery, we had 12 robberies district-wide. That was down 25%. Overall trends is we usually try to track businesses versus personal and where the trends are. We really didn't have too many trends developing. There are a couple of citywide trends. We do have a couple of robberies that are participating in that, but we didn't have some of the larger trends that have happened in past years. So I'm pretty happy about that so far. Looking at total violent crime, we were down about 8.5%. Again, you know, we're pretty happy that the numbers keep going on a downtrend about that. Burglary, we had 17 for the last 28 days. That's up 13%, but I wouldn't be too worried about that. Overall, burglary as a whole citywide has been decreasing for a number of years. We really haven't had many trends as far as burglary in the district, and we certainly don't have the numbers some of the other districts have. So, you know, the fact that we're up 2 as opposed to previous 28 days, I wouldn't be too concerned about that at this point. Larceny, shoplifting was about even. We were only up about 2%. Most of the trends for the 28 days come from our shopping areas, which was expected. But again, the fact that we're almost flat with that's pretty good number-wise. Larceny, fund motor vehicle. Last week, I will say this: I've been averaging somewhere around the 12 to 15 instances a month. Last week we had 3. So you know, everybody get a thumbs up on that one. We were basically down 20% overall in the last 28 days for that. So again, I'm thankful for that. You know, again, get the constant reminders from me saying, please don't leave things in your car as you go shopping and things like that. Obviously, is working out overall. Property crime overall is up only 4%. Again, property crime has been pretty much on the downswing citywide for a number of years. So we're looking at the big picture on that one as far as that goes. Some of the big trends we've been working on, obviously, kind of 3 areas that we've been concentrating over the last 2 months about. One is our holiday safety tips. We ran holiday safety tips through the entire season. I think they were very well received to a number of new outlets that I put them out to this year. So the end of the season, we're working on closing no purge packages. So I'll let you know how we did with the collection of cardboard for this year. It looks a little light as compared to comparative years, but we'll see about that when we weigh everything next week. We did have 2 crime areas that we were working on. One is the area what we call 313's beat. It's the area around LaSalle Street, Campus Walk Avenue, Maureen Road area. We've been concentrating and trading on that in a number of different areas heavily over the last 28 days. There have been a couple of small property crime, but the violent crime hasn't showed up there since the beginning of the previous 28 days. So, you know, that's a definite positive thing. We're going to continue working on that area as the students come back from their breaks and get back to classes. So, and I believe that's Duke is returning, I believe, the middle of the month. So we're going to keep our eyes open on that as well. The other area is obviously our retail areas. We sort of concentrate on them during the holiday season. The big one that really gave us some activity was the streets of South Point. That has been a concern throughout the season. We've been working with them very closely over the last 28 days on a number of different projects. To try to keep everybody as safe as we can make them during that season. We are obviously, our investigators are working the particular cases that have been out at that location, and we're working with, they're working with the DAs on those particular cases. So, you know, we're looking to start the new year to see where as we ramp down our holiday season programs, to see where the numbers are looking for the future. There are a number of things I guess the city is looking to concentrate on that we're going to participate in. So more details on that. And I think there are a couple of programs we're looking to bring further in the year. Lieutenant Fitzgerald and I are working on the idea, one big idea, and then we got a couple other things that we're watching to see what develops on those. And, you know, so stay tuned. I know it's a lot of information for future, but stay tuned about that. You know, we'll have more information that goes along. But numbers so far, you know, overall, not too bad. But you know, we'll see what the new year brings. And anybody have any questions or comments on that? All right, thank you very much, Mindy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I know your officers, please thank all of them that have been doing the extra duty in those hot spots. I know we have several people on the call here today that are from those areas, know those victims. So we all appreciate all the work that you've been doing there. And please, everybody, remember, you are a part of this solution. So if you see something that looks suspicious, feels wrong, is frightening to you, call 911. I know we're going to be training more 911 officers thanks to our new mayor's initiative with Durham Tech. And there is on the agenda, the consent agenda for the next city council meeting, the pay raises for our law enforcement officers. So I hope that will help with morale and enabling us to staff up to full capacity as we should be staffed in so many of these first responder areas. So we are glad to see those pay raises coming your way, sir. So thank you. So moving on to Donna. Could you give us a short version, Donna, of all the important things going on?
Okay, I'll do it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Try not to take too much time.
Thank you.
And I'm sharing your screen, Donna. Yep, I'm sharing.
Okay. All right.
You know,
so I'm Donna Rosser, and I'm sharing announcements from the Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention team and our community partners. Next slide. The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services reported on its COVID-19 information from December 30th. The highest one-day total of COVID-19 cases. NCDHHS is closely monitoring hospital capacity and is urging North Carolinians to gather safely, get vaccinated and boosted, and wear a mask indoors and in public places. As cases and hospitalizations are rising rapidly, it's important to take precautions to slow the spread of COVID-19. This is especially important as treatment supplies are limited and being reserved for the most at-risk patients. If you have COVID-19 symptoms and can't get tested, stay home and isolate from other people for at least 5 full days. You can leave isolation after 5 full days or after it has been at least 24 hours since you had fever and your symptoms have improved, whichever comes later. So check out the next slide for a flow chart and quarantine, for information on quarantine. So we'll go to the next slide. On January 4th, CDC updated its recommendations for isolation for asymptomatic and chronically ill people and quarantine for close contact of those known to have COVID-19. Early data suggests that the Omicron variant is 3 times more infectious than the Delta variant. The guidance is changing rapidly. Be sure to stay up to date with the latest updates. And I'm going to put the link in the chat for that information. We'll go to the next slide. If you're looking to get tested, visit the testing place information that's on the slide.
Yes, and if I could, Donna, I want to interrupt. The city announced yesterday that there are vaccines being given free of charge today at the Wheels Fun Park.
Yeah,
so,
I have that in my.
Oh, you do? Okay, sorry. I didn't know. I wanted to be sure people knew that you can get vaccines and tested for free today at the Wheels Fun Park.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Slide number 5. And this is a gentle reminder to take care of your mind, just as we try to take care of our bodies to protect us from the stress of life, especially during the ongoing COVID-19 crisis. It feels overwhelming, but you don't have to handle it on your own. We'll go to the next slide. On January 20th, 2022, the Durham County Department of Public Health is partnering with C4 Innovations to host a webinar on what it means to be a recovery-friendly workplace. And presenters will share updates on information about how employers can revise policies and supervision strategies, and potentially make reasonable job accommodations to meet the needs of all employees. It's a free 90-minute webinar. It's for HR resources professionals, for program leaders, as well as people in recovery looking for employment and seeking work. I sent a flyer to Carmen just now, Carmen, so you can put that in the chat for everybody, share that with attendees. And I'll put the link to register for the webinar in the chat. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Be sure to connect with our timely list of webinars, and I also sent that to Carmen as well. And I've got a link where you can find it on our website, and share that as well. And we'll go to the next slide. We're still offering virtual diabetes groups that will be held on January 25th, 2022, 6 to 7 p.m. Registration is required, and the links to that are in the slide if you want to screenshot it or whatever. And you can also email Willa Robinson Allen if you have questions about that. And I'll put that in the slide, in the chat as well. We'll go to the next slide. We offer group fitness classes every Tuesday at 12 to 12:30 p.m. with a blend of strength-based classes, high-intensity interval training, and Zumba. And you can register with the link that's in the slide. And we'll go to the next slide. On January 8th, 2022, from 10 to 4 p.m., Duke Health will be offering free Pfizer vaccines to the public and at Wheels Fun Park. And that's the information that Mindy just shared. Okay. It's first and second doses of Pfizer for adults, adolescents, and children ages 5 to 11. Pfizer booster shots will also be available for adults age 16 and older. No appointment necessary. Walk in and get your shot. Free COVID-19 testing at this event as well. Okay, we can go to the last slide. And this is for my contact information, and my phone number is incorrect on this. It's actually 919-560-7765, and I'll include that information in the chat as well. So thank you very much.
Super. Wow. Thank you so much, Donna. So Donna shares all that from our county resources and our city. And there are resources out there that if your friends and neighbors need these services, please point them in the right direction. Because we have 2 Duke officers with us today, I'm going to move them up, the Duke Public Safety. Aaron or Daryl, did you want to say something? I don't know if they're with us still. I don't see either one. Oh, I'm sorry. So I do just want to point out that we did have 2 public safety officers from Duke with us today. Duke's West Campus sits in our district. So there's an incredible collaboration going on between the Duke Police and the Durham Police, and I think they deserve a shout out for that. That it's the best I've seen in the 40 years I've lived here. So, and I'm a Duke graduate, so I'm really proud that Duke is making that effort to help their students and the neighborhoods around their West Campus. So thanks to them for being here, and I'm sorry I didn't give them time to speak. Parks and Rec, Carmen, did you want to speak anything about Parks and Rec? I don't see them on the call.
So we don't have Parks and Recreation here or the code enforcement. I do just have a very quick update on our end. We have a couple positions that we are trying to fill on the PAC. I'm gonna be working on a flyer this week and I'm gonna be blasting it in the listserv, but we do need a co-facilitator. Mindy's great, but she needs someone to help her. And so I will definitely send the terms, but they're usually, I believe, a 1 to 2 year terms. And so we need a co-facilitator, a treasurer. The PAC has a $2,000 budget a year. And so this is for any PAC business, anything that the residents that are part of the PAC kind of recommend or would like to see those funds being allocated towards, definitely let us know. And so the treasurer usually administers these funds. And definitely we just need a couple of members at large. So then these are just residents that are involved in the PAC and will support PAC services. And I'm going to be working on a flyer and sending it in the next week or so. But just, if you know anybody who's interested, if you yourself are interested, definitely connect with me or Mindy. And that is it on our end. And I'm also going to go ahead and share the slides and all the information that Donna sent in the listserv.
Great. And we need to do a special shout out and thank you to Carmen. She has been promoted to the budget office and we will be losing her as our resource officer from Neighborhood Improvement Services. So Carmen, we can't thank you enough for how accessible and helpful and kind and hardworking you've been for us over the past couple of years. And I'll miss her greatly because she does everything for me. So I'm going to be needing some sessions, Carmen, on how to do things without you when you leave us. But there will be an interim replacement that we'll welcome hopefully at our next meeting, and a permanent replacement following in the spring. But Carmen, we wish you the very, very best in your new endeavors. And she's still going to be with Durham city government. So that's the good news. So we won't lose her talents and wonderful personality. So thank you, Carmen, for everything. All right. Code enforcement isn't here today, so we'll nix them. But any questions? We've still got Ms. DeBerry on the call here. Thank you so much. Her PowerPoint was incredible. Let me just tell you, to put all of that in 20 minutes was amazing. A lot of information there. So we will have that available. And do we put our recordings, Carmen, on the NIS website? Is that how this works?
Yes, we'll go ahead and do that, and I can also share it in the listserv. I know I did see 2 questions here.
Okay.
I'm just trying to go up to it.
Oh, so Daryl was with us and heard our nice remarks. So good. The Duke Police, just seeing that in the chat. Sorry, Carmen.
So I just have 2 questions. Would it be possible to send copy of the felony offenses charts to the group? Not sure if there's something that can be done.
I put a link to the felony.
Okay, so you already saw those.
Sentencing chart in the chat. So.
Yeah, so people need to recognize that so much of what the DA's office does is regulated by law. I mean, there are structured sentences, there are required certain things. So yeah, so thank you, Ms. DeBerry, for sharing all those sort of legal side to this that's statewide. Yeah, decided by the state, and of course that's what we have to follow. Okay, what else is in the chat here?
So sent you and Carmen the presentation, and so you can share that widely.
Yeah, no, I hope you'll use that for other groups you speak to, because I think you really covered a ton of questions that we keep hearing from the citizens. All right. Oh, the D, a quick question for Donna. Donna, yeah, Donna's still with us. When will the DCO Health offer boosters for 12 to 15-year-olds? Oh, Donna, you're on mute. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's see, I believe I got an email yesterday saying that we're offering them now.
All right, so they're being offered now. Patty, I hope you're still with us. So if you have a 12 to 15-year-old, they can get their boosters.
I'm just gonna.
And you can go to the Durham County Department of Health to find out how to get an appointment during the week. But today, these boosters look like they were available with no appointment out at the fun park. Okay. Did I miss anything, Carmen, in the chat?
Nope, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for all for staying a little late. And we apologize for taking a little bit of your time. The only thing is that I just wanted to add, we have discussed, and Dosali being here. Thank you so much for joining us, Dosali. It's good to see you. We have spoken about ideally doing a hybrid form of PAC. And so we're thinking about that perhaps in April when the weather's a little bit better and the COVID cases hopefully are a little bit steady with all the rises happening. So we're looking at perhaps a hybrid, but more conversations of that will come soon in the next couple of months.
Yeah, so we appreciate you all sticking with us on virtual, and we are missing out on a lot of our citizens who aren't on computers. So what we are trying to be sensitive to hearing their voices, and I know, Dasali, a lot of the folks in your neighborhood, Miss Hazeline Umstead, has been such a big part of our PAC 3, and she hasn't been able to join us. So we really hate that we haven't been able to meet in person. So we are trying, guys, but this latest uptick is not good, as I can attest to firsthand. So we'll shoot for April. So that.
Excuse me, Mindy.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll start offering those vaccines on Monday.
Awesome. Okay.
So children ages 12 to 15.
12 to 15-year-olds can now get their boosters down at the public health department, although they'll be able to tell you where to go to get them. I know El Centro is one of the places that the county's working with to provide vaccinations to our neighborhood. So that's just right up the street here. All right, so yeah, Dasali, thank you. We hope you'll join us every month. All of you are welcome every month to join us. Mr. Barry, someone from your office. We used to always have an assistant DA from our PAC or from your office in our PAC when we were meeting in person. So we welcome any of your ADAs that want to join us monthly. We really appreciate having everybody participate and sharing information and keeping us all informed. So I think I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you all so much for being with us today. Thank you so much, Mr. Barry. We really appreciate the work your office is doing to keep us all safe here in Durham. And Captain and the law enforcement officers, thank you for your work, and Donna and the health department. We're all together in this, and we want to make our community better, safer, healthier. So let's all do our part. Oh my gosh, and MLK, there's a ton of information, what you can do to volunteer on MLK Day. You can go to the Keep Durham Beautiful website or the Wanda Page's end of the week kind of information. There are lots of opportunities to plant bulbs, to plant trees, to pick up litter, to do great things in your neighborhood. So don't ever feel like you're just one and can't impact our world here, but just one person can make a huge difference. So go to Keep Durham Beautiful, look at the MLK opportunities for volunteering, and remember the call to action. Our new mayor asked us all to give 2 to 5 hours a week volunteering for something in our city, mentoring a child, providing food. There's just so many ways we all can help. Just pick up litter when you walk the neighborhood, trying to get over COVID, pick up trash. That's easy, makes you feel good, and makes our city look better and healthier for everyone. All right, so thank you all. See you in February. We're hoping to have a judge be our guest speaker. I'm sure I'll be able to find one. I'll work on that next week, finding a judge who can help us, again, talk about this criminal justice process from the judge's point of view. Until then, everyone take care, be safe, and stay healthy.
Thanks, Mindy.
Thank you.